There are good tenants and there are bad tenants. And there are good landlords and there are bad landlords. And I'm glad that there are bad landlords so they can take the bad tenants. And the first time I heard that, I was both sick to my stomach and just ferociously angry.
Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder and treason and plot. For I know no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. You may remember those amazing words from the awesome movie V for Vendetta. Or the historic poem about Guy Fawkes trying to overthrow a monarchy. Well, we are kind of facing our new kind of monarchy in 2025. And just like over 400 years ago, we are now facing another November 5th that had historic presidents all across this country. From Zoran Madani to New Jersey races to Atlanta races, we have seen it all. But no race really epitomizes what we are actively fighting against, quite like the Duluth race itself. We're going to hear all about how one tenant union kind of made historic history in Duluth, Minnesota, which is not that far away from me. And we have a wonderful person named Diana Grandal who's going to be here talking to you. So happy to have you, Diana.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Mercury. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I only heard about this because I was talking about the right to repair on my Facebook, and there was a group of people who told me, hey, Mercury, did you see what happened in Duluth, Minnesota? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm really well informed, Googling what happened in Duluth, Minnesota. And wow, what an amazing event. Can you kind of give a really short recap to the audience members who might not know what actually happened in Duluth?
A group of us came together and put an issue on the ballot. And this week, over 12,000 Duluthians across our city voted yes on question 1 and passed Duluth Right to Repair, which is a common sense tool for renters to get their repairs in a more timely manner.
What does right to repair mean in the context of this bill in Duluth?
Yes. So right to repair basically provides an opportunity where if you are being ghosted by your landlord, if you request your repair and you don't hear back from them within 2 weeks with the repair being finished or remedied or scheduled, you can contract and do the repair yourself. And then best part is deduct the cost from your next month's rent with a receipt.
Oh, that's so cool. So you can actually, wow, that's crazy. So you don't even need to send the bill to the landlord. It straight up is deducted right away. How does that work? Do you just pay what you would then owe the rest and then just say, well, I fixed this and you didn't get to it. So, not paying this? How does that work?
Yeah, so our policy is based off of, we made history here in Duluth and in Minnesota for passing right to repair here, but actually the right to repair exists in over 30 states and cities across the country. And so we are joining the ranks of almost half the country of tenants who have the right to repair. And what it looks like in practical, tangible matters is let's say I have a broken doorknob and I request that repair and I don't hear back from my landlord in those 14 days. What I can do is, if I have the skills to fix a doorknob, I can go to Menards, I can go to Home Depot or, local hardware store, pick up a fresh doorknob and the tools that I need, fix that doorknob, and then give the receipt to my landlord and say, all right, my rent is $700. I'm paying you $550 this month because here's the receipt for. And the cost limit is $500 or a half month's rent because we're really just want to be able to get our common sense repairs in our home where it's I don't want to deal with this broken shower head for 2 weeks. I don't want to deal with this broken window screen. We just want to get it fixed and move on with our lives.
Everyone knows that on the internet, you gotta pay the bills, and I am no different. I wrote a book a year or so ago called Safe and Sound, a renter's friendly guide to home repair, which is perfect if you are someone who is watching this episode and is like, whoa, I'm in Duluth, Minnesota. I can fix stuff now. This book is available anywhere you buy your books, but if you want an autographed copy of this, you can go to my website and buy yourself one of these. But if you're someone who can't afford this, don't worry. Now until December 17th, we are doing something very special. We're doing the Pay It Forward program. Audience members have donated over 500 copies of my book to be able to help other people who are not able to obtain their own copy of Safe and Sound, a renter's friendly guide to home repair. All you gotta do is reclaim the promo codes forward2 and forward ship when you are checking out for the autographed copy of my book on my website, and you will get your own free copy. We're doing this in good faith, so if you are able to buy your own copy and you don't need the support, please do not take away that opportunity from someone who really needs it. If you're someone who has the means, please consider donating. We need more and more of these books all the time. And a huge thank you to Poplight, our wonderful friends who have made this possible. Poplight is a battery-operated light fixture that can go directly on the wall, be turned off nice and easily, and doesn't need an outlet. A charge can last up to 6 hours. It's 300 lumens, which is great if you're using it as a nightlight next to your bed. It's very durable, and they are helping us be able to make this program happen, so give them a little bit of love in return by using my affiliate link down below. Please do that. That helps us grow this relationship, and we love Poplight. I wanted to point out a clarity fact for some folks. So, yeah, you are right. The right to repair does exist in about 30 other states. But the thing that's interesting about this specific initiative is the price tag of $500 or a half month's rent, which is absolutely wonderful. And the fact that it's almost like an automatic thing. Like, okay, you didn't do it in 14 days. I have documentation of that. And here's a receipt. Where in most states, it does not work this efficiently. In most states, you've got to go through procedures and you have to like essentially sue them to be able to get the money back. In this, it's built into the bill. What made you all decide on this wording and this procedure? Was there another organization that had done something similar that made you think this was the way to go?
It was really fun to figure out how we wanted to do this. We had a series, it was kind of like, okay, we're going to get everybody together and talk about what we want the policy to say. And then, okay, we're going to talk it over with our lawyers and figure out what the lawyery policy language needs to be. And then,
yeah.
And so our policy, a big chunk of it, there's a place where it lists all the qualifying repairs. And we kind of just copied and pasted that from the Chicago policy that's been on the book since 1986.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then when it came to figuring out how to make it work for renters in a real way, it's part of the problem that we were experiencing in Duluth was if I'm not getting a repair that I need now, the first place I'm supposed to call is a city department that does incredible, honorable work every day, trying to do housing inspections and all of that. But they're dealing with a backlog from the pandemic, and they're way behind on inspections.
Yeah, and to be honest, all of them are across the country. Yes. All of them are these tenant resources or these tenant planners or city planners. All of them are just so bogged down with so much work.
Yes, and so we said, okay, who knows better what they need in their home than the renter who is living in their home every day? Yes.
Absolutely. So, just me slightly clapping.
Yes, exactly. It's so why don't we put the tool in renter's toolbox to say, okay, I need this repair. You haven't done your due diligence as a landlord to even respond to schedule something. And so I'm going to take care of business. I'm really proud of it. It's pushing the envelope of this is what right to repair means for tenants across the country. And I'm super excited.
I really love the revolutionary idea of it just kind of being an automatic way to go. Instead of it being so much red tape. Now, I am sure that in the months to come, there will be pushback from landlords, and I am sure the bill's strength will be tested. But boy, am I excited to see what the hell that looks like. And I'm excited to see if they actually can pull off some loopholes. Like, okay, go right ahead, try it. And then every other city will see how to make sure we can stop that from happening. Because boy, do I want to throw my weight behind this and see and help more and more people. I think that we are living in the 21st century, and it's extremely important that our bills are reacting to the 21st century, and we're not like basically hiding behind so much bureaucracy that can't really get the job done. This is a really effective way to help a lot of people right now without wasting time of knowing how you're going to pay these bills.
Yeah. Well, and what's beautiful about the right to repair here in Duluth is like, when my sink is broken, I don't want to call an inspector. I don't want to call a lawyer to have to sue my landlord. That's scary. What I want to do is fix my sink and move on with my life. And we're giving renters the tool to be able to do that.
Yeah, and if you want to learn how to fix your sink yourself, you can buy my book, Safe and Sound, a renter's friendly guide to home repair. You know, honestly, like, not to toot my own horn, but actually one of the first things I thought was like, holy cow. Like, when we wrote this book, I never really thought, you know, there was a lot of pushback about like, are renters going to get into trouble? And one of the things I said was, well, we need to live in a world where we empower the renters and, you know, screw it. If they're not going to get stuff fixed, they got to fix it somehow. It's functionality. All the stuff in the book is about function, you know? And that's what we need. We need to make sure that our homes are protected. As far as this goes, does it have to be done by a licensed professional? Or can you charge the landlord for the materials that you bought and then repaired yourself?
Yeah. So both are applicable. So if it is a repair
cool.
Awesome. If it is a repair that requires a licensed professional, like I'm no electrician. If my like electrical in my basement goes wacky again, I'm going to call somebody to check that out. But if it's something as simple as like my locks need to be changed, I can change my locks. And I mean, I'm no Mercury Stardust Trans Handyman, but I have been known to unclog a sink or two. And it's just like, wow, to be able to be reimbursed for the pipe snake and for the materials and all of that good stuff is just like, oh, yeah, nice.
Isn't it great? You know, you actually brought up a really interesting example, and you brought up changing the locks on your door. Now, from a maintenance point of view, this is going to be me asking you and maybe even working out how I wish that this would work. But in the maintenance world, right now, every landlord and every technician who does work in your house, in your home, have keys. Right? So when we change the locks, we want to make sure that we have the keys and we have the data and we tracking what keys go where and all that jazz, right? Now, I have said for years that I don't know if that makes sense. Because do you really want anyone else to be able to come into your property when you're not home? Now, there could be emergencies and absolutely, but I think that kind of goes the same way for homeowners, to be honest. Like there's emergencies for homes too. Shit happens. So it's kind of weird that we have this exception for this, right? But then they will say, well, it's their property, right? This law really kind of calls into question how we are doing things in this industry. And you brought up a great example of that. So like, what do you think? Like, do you think that, like the idea of being able to change your own locks and do those things, like, is it a necessity to be able to have that much privacy as a renter?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's a necessity for the sake of the safety and stability of our homes. Like there has been a time where I have needed my locks changed for my safety and I was denied that.
Yeah.
And It was
You got to have
horrible
a
to
police
experience.
report. You have to have a police report if you want to do it, or
Yeah,
you have to have
yeah,
lost your keys and etc. Yeah, it's a
right.
whole joke. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think for the safety reasons, that is important. And then two, it's like the beauty of right to repair is like everything is documented. We're making sure everything is documented. So if I'm making a request to my landlord in writing, like, hey, I need my locks changed, here's why, and they don't respond, then I have not only do I feel very sound in changing my own locks and protected by this policy, I also feel more sound in my home knowing that I can change my locks for my safety. And sorry, there was just a fire truck that went
The
by. So.
irony of the sirens coming while we're talking about
Yes,
safety was
yes,
killing me.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But okay, I wanted to follow up on that though, because what I
yeah.
think is fascinating too is that there's laws on the books in
Mhm.
multiple states that you
Yes.
can have security cameras up in your home
Mhm.
without notifying the landlords. I mean,
Yeah,
it is just like these asinine
yeah,
ideas. Like, so whose home is it? Whose
right.
home is it? It's your property, but it's my home. So
Yeah.
okay, then that means you have to fix this, but you're not fixing it. So, you know, it's just a back and forth that makes no sense to me.
And another one that's curious too, while you bring up the locks, a rule that Minnesota passed in the last few years is requiring 24-hour advance notice for landlords. And so, like, if my
Was that
landlord,
not a rule before?
I think it was in some way or another, but they shored it up on the books. I forget the exact
Okay.
details. But the number of people who I have talked with who have been afraid to like uphold that right for themselves, just solely out of the like, oh, the desperation and the mindset of like, oh, it is such a gift. It is such a gift that you let me rent your home. But then it's like,
Oh,
wait, but I have rights, you know, and like, and being in that
yes.
tension, like, I'm a human with rights and this is my home and this is my safe place. And also, yes, you own this property, but also I pay rent and spend all of my time here. Like, yeah, there's so
Diana, you're
many,
killing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's
It's
so
so
many
real, but
interesting
that's
things.
so real. And so
Mhm.
many people believe that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I got to make sure I wipe my shoes when I go into my home because I got to respect their property. And, you know, I don't
Yeah.
want to put any type of little pinholes in the walls. And, you
Mhm.
know, like, I understand that. But I also think that it's such like, in a country where there's more and more renters every single year, and
Yes.
in a country where we have less and less tenant rights and resources, that
Yeah.
I just find it so absurd that we don't have a larger movement in this field. Now, that brings me to my next subject I want to talk to you about, the
Yeah.
tenant organization itself and
Yes.
how Duluth tenants became to be.
Mm.
And how did that all transpire? Now, it's a
Yeah.
small and young organization, right? Like 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah. Duluth Tenants is my baby. We got started in July of 2023. I am employed for Take Action Minnesota, which is a really cool like grassroots people power organization. And yeah, I've been working here for a few years at that point, and it was kind of a crossroads time of we just finished passing earned sick and safe time at the state level, shouts out. And like needing to kind of figure out what my next project was. And I myself have experienced, I just told you about not being able to get my locks fixed. I went a whole year, an entire lease with a cracked door frame that like the keyhole socket thing wouldn't even stay in there. And when I requested that repair over and over again, my landlord would send me, or would send his 16-year-old son up there with a screwdriver. And I was
Yeah.
like, no, I need this fixed. So
Yeah, because they don't want to replace the door that was probably, it was in an old house.
mhm,
Yeah. They don't want
yeah,
to have to cut a specific door down to a
yeah,
specific size and do all that work. Yeah, no,
yeah,
I've heard this before from
yeah,
landlords. I've heard it
yes,
before. Not
yeah.
surprising, very frustrating.
very frustrating, especially when I'm the one who's feeling, like my door was very easy. You could jiggle it just right and just open it. And I was like, this is into my home.
It's your,
Um,
yeah. How do you
yeah,
function? You know what I mean? Like, that's absolutely terrifying,
yeah,
especially in the world in which we live in.
yeah, exactly. And thankfully I had extremely wonderful building mates and built really strong relationship with them. So that was like helpful and just reminder of like we keep us safe kind of thing. But yeah, so I had my own set of experiences of like feeling pinched by the national housing crisis being experienced locally here in Duluth, and also these different experiences not getting my repairs. And my friend Leash and my friend Will and my friend Andrea and my friend Bree also had this kind of set of experiences. And we started coalescing around this idea of like, oh shit, maybe we should do something about this. Um, and my supervisor, Katie Blanchard, who she had gone to a week-long organizing training and met folks from the Kansas City Tenant Union, the Louisville Tenant Union, the Tenant Union in Bozeman, Montana, and she was like effervescent with energy after talking with all of these folks and how powerful it felt to be organizing tenants. And she came back from that training and was just like, Diana, you need to build a tenant union. Like, that's what you need to do next. And I talked about it with those folks, and they were like, yeah, this is what we need to do. And so we got started the way the best organizing projects get started, just by knocking doors and talking with our neighbors. And we used this, it's called an anger, hope, action script, where you start
Oh,
from
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I did a lot of phone banking and a lot of
Oh,
this
yeah.
kind of work in 2020 and then in
Yes.
2016. So like
Yes.
this is yeah, yeah. But tell
Yes.
the audience more about what this is. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the whole script, we call it an aha script. But basically, you start from anger. First day is anger, and basically you start by asking a question that gets people into their feelings about an issue. And so we went door
Yeah.
to door and said, "Have you ever struggled to make your ends meet, or have you ever struggled to make rent? And have you ever dealt with a shitty landlord, or ever dealt with not being able to get your repairs done?" And so then
And
you
everybody
engage.
said yes.
Yes. I was amazed at the number of people who were like so hungry and excited to talk with us about, yeah, how hard of a time they were having being a renter. And so after you engage around those like real feelings and that real frustration with the sort of status quo of the world, you move into a section around hope. And in Hope, we talked about like, yeah, we're building an organization of renters in Duluth. What would it look like for renters to have real power here? And I'm not gonna lie to you, like a lot of people kind of laughed us off, or were like, I
Yeah.
can't even begin to imagine that
It's a
anything could
part
change.
it's a
Hmm.
part of the system. When you are
Yes.
living in the system for that long, you cannot imagine it being any way else.
Yeah.
And they just don't think they could ever make it work, you know?
Yeah.
And here you are, like a day or so later,
Yeah.
absolutely proving that notion wrong. Have
Yeah.
you, prior to Tuesday, an election, what was the membership then? How many people did you have then?
Mm, yeah. That's a really good question. We started, actually, I'll tell a small anecdote. We had our first tenant meeting October 4th, 2023. We had 6 people join
Wow.
us. And it
Whoa.
steadily grew.
Two
And
years.
yeah, this whole campaign is
That's
covered
crazy.
in the fingerprints of 153 people. And that's people who made phone calls, knocked on doors,
Oh,
collected signatures
wow.
in the parking lot, like people who threw down, paid union dues, like, and so yeah, our membership is growing, and also growing in terms of like people's individual leadership too. Um,
Yeah.
People understanding what they are capable of, like people know that they are capable of more than they initially thought, and that is also the coolest part of all this.
Now I have another follow-up question. Have you seen an influx of people wanting to get involved since 2 days ago? Like it hasn't been a very long time, but are there
Yeah.
already like emails and messages being
Yeah.
like, "Let's go further. What can we do more?"
Yes. Yeah. And throughout the campaign, there have been these little moments where it's like, oh, this is what Duluth Tenants is doing. Like, oh, look at their labor rally. And so I know I have 68 text messages on my phone that I haven't gotten to since Tuesday. And yeah, DMs on Instagram and emails and folks reaching out. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to
I'm
like,
very happy you answered my DM like that.
yeah, yeah. What's funny is I have not been on Insta. I have been like on a no internet
Yeah, it's
time.
overwhelming.
It's overwhelming, and my deepest, darkest fear is being misunderstood. And I just like the whole idea of my work and our work being so public, and the forces that be that are trying to like muddy the waters about what we're trying to do. I was like, that's Com's
Friend,
job. I can't do it.
I completely understand the whole being misunderstood thing.
Yeah,
Absolutely. The internet's a really scary place. And with
yeah,
something like this, I mean, it's kind of amazing of the percentage of people who voted yes for it. I think please tell me the exact percentage because I know I'm going to get it wrong, but you guys whooped them. I mean, it wasn't even close. You whooped them.
yeah. Yeah, we did. I don't remember the exact percentage. I think it's like 68.8 or 69%, but it is 12,549 votes, which, fun fact for the data nerds of the world, in the last municipal election of this kind, where these same city council seats were up in 2021, about 13,000 people voted in that election. And so we were just
The whole election.
Yes, we are just
Yeah.
802 votes shy of like that whole entire election, which granted there's pandemic, whatever,
Yeah.
and impacted turnout. But I was just like, we just like brought back the like civic duty of voting
Yeah.
for Duluthians.
It was, I think it was like 12,000 votes to like 5,000 votes or something. Like
Yeah.
it was a pretty astronomical difference. So you've done all this work to try to get the word out. How many people have you encountered and been able to talk to about this issue?
Yeah, beautiful question. Love this question. Throughout the course of the campaign to win Duluth Right to Repair, we knocked on 22,300 doors and had about 7,240 conversations with our neighbors. And that doesn't include just like the everyday chats that we're having with folks in the grocery store or talking to our friends about Right to Repair. So thousands and thousands of conversations.
Is this all volunteer work?
Yes, yeah.
That's wild. I don't think we as a country remember what community activism really looks like. I think we have gotten so polarized in big, ginormous general elections that we really forget what local government can do. And this is such a big one. Not only in the state of Minnesota are you able to do things like this, like in Wisconsin here, very famously, our state laws prevent cities from actually protecting renters and adjusting things for renters. Everything has to go through the state. In Minnesota, it gives you a lot more power to the cities itself. Do you see a chain reaction that may occur in the rest of the state with what happened with Duluth Tenants?
Yeah. I would love to see a chain reaction, not just in terms of passing this specific policy, but also in terms of like the kind of team that we built and the love. Like another beautiful thing that happened is like our leaders, we have a team of 10 leaders who are like volunteering, during their lunch breaks, they're taking calls, after work, they're coming to meetings, on the weekends, they're knocking doors, who just like really worked hard to like lead this campaign, and even more members who threw down in their spare time as well. And so I hope we see a ripple effect of that across the country and across our state. And then also just the way that our policy, part of our like theory of the win is also about agitating and pushing renters to raise their standards. And I think that's something
Yes.
that I would love to see culturally change, because it's like we have been so conditioned and so shamed about being a renter. And Sherrod Brown, who's like a politician in New York or in Ohio, says this thing about like there's dignity in work, and it's like there's dignity in renting, and more of us are having to rent because of the increasing unaffordability of buying homes. Like that is just not a vision that many people get to have anymore because of
Yes.
the level of capitalism we live under. And it's like, just because I'm renting doesn't mean I deserve less than in my home. And just because I'm renting and my rent is subsidized doesn't mean that I deserve less than my neighbor who pays market rate. And there's just all of these different gross assumptions that we make about renters and what they deserve. And like, I so want to see, and so am glad that we get to be part of this movement that like raises our own expectations for what we deserve.
This brings up your biggest enemy, and it brings up the people who were the most opposed to this bill, and that is landlords. As someone who worked so closely with landlords for years, I will tell you that I've heard it all. I have heard, landlords refer to their tenants as animals. I've heard them talk about their tenants as if they were, in prison. I've heard people talk about tenants as if they were the enemy more often than I've ever heard them speak about them in any other way. So that being said, like as you're talking about this, like being viewed as less than, like you have somehow fell short as an adult if you're a renter. Even though in major cities like New York and LA, the idea that you would own property is like fucking absurd,
Yeah.
So it's laughable, especially when these cities are growing and changing so much.
Yeah.
So what has been the feedback? What has been the criticism that
Yeah.
landlords have lobbied at this bill?
Yeah. One of the most despicable things that I heard from multiple people on multiple occasions, and I won't name names, is like, there are good tenants and there are bad tenants, and there are good landlords and there are bad landlords. And I'm glad that there are bad landlords so they can take the bad tenants. And the first time I heard that, I was both sick to my stomach and just ferociously angry. Because what do you mean? One, what do you even mean? And two, like, okay, just because a person maybe doesn't have the skills to take care of a home doesn't mean that they deserve a less cared for home. That means like a person needs some coaching and some support and to watch a few Mercury Stardust videos of like, this is what it looks like, and like the expectation that bad people deserve bad things, or the idea that there's a bad person. Anyway, it just really got my goat. And also, there's just the quiet part that often wasn't said out loud in some of the things, in the ways that people talked about tenants throughout this whole fight for Duluth right to repair, was an undercurrent of like, oh yeah, tenants are stupid. And that was really frustrating to deal with, because people would be like, well, what if you're changing your shower head and then all of a sudden your bathtub falls through the floor? Who's liable? And I'm like, one, we're changing a shower head here. Let's be serious. Two, renters are adults. If I can be trusted to sign a contract and sign away a third of my income, 53% of Duluthians are cost burdened, which means they pay more than 30% of their income on their rent. If I can pay more than 30% of my monthly income to have this roof over my head, I think I can handle changing my shower head. And even better, I think I can handle, communicating with my landlord and asking for what I need. And if you don't give that, I'm going to contract for this repair because I know I need it. I spend every day in this apartment. So yeah, there was just some like really, there was some real pieces of like benevolent, or like meant to be benevolent paternalism over like, oh, the poor renters, I just don't want you guys to get in trouble. And it's like, some of that is out of real care and some of that is out of real fear. And I have so much empathy for that. But
Meanwhile, how many
yeah.
of us have lived without central air or out
Yes,
heating or with a refrigerator that keeps going out or an oven that doesn't always
exactly.
turn on? And we
Exactly.
can barely meet those needs, but they're actively telling us, oh,
Yes.
don't do something that may go bad and then you'll have to spend more money. Well, okay, well then do your
Yeah.
job. The,
Yeah.
the, the, the thing, the only thing they have to do is do their job.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
If they don't want renters to be in a bad spot, then just uphold
And
your
just do
end
your
of
job.
the bargain.
Yes.
That's all
Yeah.
you're asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's this other bit too that was really challenging for me personally throughout this whole fight. Like, I grew up in a very working class home. I'm the youngest of 8 siblings. And my dad worked his ass off at the local grocery store. And yeah, there have been these moments where like, okay, I am now responsible for paying for my own rent, and what does that mean, and how do I like manage all of these different bills, and whoa, and coming from a household where like we worked really hard, like my parents worked really hard to get by, and so then I would be in these meetings, because another thing that happened, because of course it happened, was like, oh, but did you talk to the landlords about this, Diana? And I was like, sure, I'll talk to the landlords. And like there would be
Yeah.
these moments where it's like, okay, you're talking about worrying about your profit and you're worrying about your bottom line. I'm worrying about tenants' lives. Like I'm worrying
Yes.
about people who are worrying about paying the rent for their one place. You are worried about your profit margin and paying for your 25th and 26th place for your 100 tenants.
Yeah.
And
Not
that
to
that
mention,
disconnect, navigating that disconnect was I could join the Cirque du Soleil.
for those who don't understand how the property management companies work, property management companies are third parties. They very rarely do they own the property themselves. What the property management companies do is that they're paid
Mhm.
by the actual landlords to manage the companies, manage the homes. Now, they charge a fee for them to do that every single year to the actual landlords, and they will send a landlord a bill for any work that they're doing. Landlords get so mad about having a $500 refrigerator being repaired and then costing them $900 because they don't understand labor is a flipping thing. And if you don't want to pay for labor, if you don't want to deal with that, if you don't like the fact that you are getting money wasted away and you don't understand why they're not doing things the way you want them to do, then maybe you should be directly involved with the tenant and then get rid of the flippin' property management companies who are literally just, a lot of them are finding ways to spend as little as money as possible and making sure they do as little as possible. And they're not worried about the house in 5 years. They're not worried about it in 10 years. They're worried about it right now. And if you're going to pay rent, and once that building starts getting bad enough, they can make the city just tear it down. And they will get money for the city tearing that down.
So
So it does. Oh, they're just, yeah, they'll just sell it, or really the property management company will just not, will no longer be involved, right? Because the landlord is the one who has to sell it and
yeah,
do all that work. But once it gets to a certain point, the landlord's just like,
yeah,
what's the point? You know,
yeah.
a lot
And
of
I
times they
do
will sell to the property management companies, and then that becomes another part of the
a whole nother
actual
thing.
deals. And yes, but it's a
I
mess.
do. It's a mess. It is a mess. And one of the other funny talking points that was used is about like, oh, this is going to hurt mom and pop landlords. And what was really funny to me about that, and continues to be funny, is like we had so many mom and pop landlords sign our petition, and we're like,
Yeah,
who would were like,
mom and
I am a
pops.
landlord. I take care of my
Yep.
properties. I had multiple people say I would be embarrassed
Embarrassed. Yeah.
if I didn't communicate with my tenant in those first
I,
two
s-
weeks.
I speak to landlords
Mhm.
across this country all the time who have
Yep.
one or two extra properties. A
Yep.
lot of times it's because of life and they don't really want to be landlords, but selling the
Yep.
property is harder than people think it is sometimes.
Yep.
So sometimes they're just saddled with this building that they got to do something with, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So sometimes they'll become landlords, right?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
get into it for the right reasons, and they quickly find out that a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And tenants who find these amazing people, often
Mhm.
they find these unicorn landlords. They
Yep.
exist, but they're not as many as people want there to be.
Yep.
And they'll find these unicorns, and then they'll live there for flipping 20 years, you
Yeah.
know? And they'll tell the landlord all their trauma, and the landlord will just look at them and be like, what?
Yeah.
How is it this bad? How is it this
Yeah.
bad? But you're right. They're on your side. Landlords that do understand
Yeah.
how it is for tenants, often ones who were tenants to begin with,
Yeah.
absolutely understand.
Yeah. Yeah. The only landlords who will feel a crunch, feel a pinch, um, after Duluth right to repair is law are the landlords who weren't doing their job and who weren't being responsible. And we even had a landlord on our team knock like 4,000 doors because she herself was like, yeah, I am embarrassed by the idea
Yes.
that anybody would oppose such a simple common sense tool for renters to get their repairs.
I think the pushback is going to happen more and more so from landlords who are very much through the third party of a property management company, because the property management company is going to try to offset those costs.
Yeah.
They are going to lose rent from you, and that's the only way they make money, right? That is really important for them to make money from you. And when it doesn't achieve that, they are going to try to find ways to offset that cost in some way, shape, or form, which is then going to ultimately hurt these people who are so distant. They don't know anything that's happening on the property. They probably live in Florida or they
Yeah.
live somewhere else. They don't live, they most likely don't even live in Duluth.
Yeah.
And they're going to find out the hard way that the companies that they trusted and they put their faith in are just as diabolical to them as they are to the actual tenants themselves. As someone who worked with those property management companies for quite a while, 100% they're pure evil. But anyways, yeah, this is fascinating. Do you have any plans of what is next for Duluth tenants?
Yeah. Uh, I love this question, and I love thinking about what is possible with the power and community that we have built as a team. A thing that I've been thinking a lot about is Duluth is about 88,000 people. 40% of Duluth, 40% of Duluth is renters, which means that there's 35,000 renters across the city of Duluth. And we certainly don't have 35,000 members yet. And so we're going to have to get back out there and pound the pavement and continue talking with our friends and neighbors across the city, and continue building power and organization of tenants. And yeah, also getting back out there to make sure everybody and their cousin knows that Duluth Right to Repair is now a right that we have as tenants. Not only is it our right, this is how to use it. I have some buddies at Justice North, which is the local kind of legal aid, who they're so excited to put together form letters so that people know what to do and how to use this. And so I think we'll have a lot of work cut out for us in terms of implementation and making sure that all of the different folks who will have will be in close proximity to this policy, who work with renters, know how to work with renters around right to repair and really set the standard for how that should look. And then, it's back to the drawing board for our team. We will be working on implementation while also someday Duluth Tenants doesn't begin and end with Duluth Right to Repair. We'll go back to the drawing board and go back to issue cutting and figure out, okay, what is the next thing that renters are struggling with in our community, and how can we fix that? We heard so much about mold throughout this campaign.
Oh my God, mold mitigation is huge. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And so I'm thinking a lot about mold. And then I'm also thinking about like, God, what would it look like for like Duluth to just have not just like a really powerful organization in Duluth Tenants, but like a powerful organization of parents or of folks around climate activism and stuff like that, and thinking about what is the next set of folks that we can organize for Take Action Minnesota, and because we also have like a really cool musicians union in the Twin Cities, and we have parents who are organizing in solidarity
Yeah.
with teachers right now in Minneapolis, and it's like, yeah, my highest or my deepest self-interest is everybody being able to access like really good, solid, life-affirming community organizing. And so there's like a whole body of what's next for Duluth Tenants, and there's also a whole body of like what's next for Take Action too. So I'm super excited.
For all of those people who are watching this right now and are inspired by all the things that you and your organization has done and all the people who have been involved, if they are inspired by you and want to follow in the footsteps, what is your best advice for people who want to do something like this in their own community across the country?
I think what I would say, one, have real ass conversations with your friends about what you care about and what your vision for the world is, like what you really want to see. And yeah, set down the doubt that you have that you could do something important, that you could do something this big. And then like remember, like we started with 5 people around a kitchen table and 6 people at our first meeting. Big things start really small. And so just start it.
I love that. Big things start really small. Diana, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you about all the work that you've done, all the things that you are doing. I'm just so happy for you and so happy for all of Duluth and all of its tenants. If people want to follow you and learn more about the wonderful work that you're doing, where would you like them to go?
Yes, you should go on Instagram at Duluth Tenants or at Take Action Minnesota or both. And then if anybody wants to follow up directly to learn more about us and how we organized, you can email me at dyanna@takeactionminnesota.org.
Dinah, it has been just an amazing pleasure and honor to talk to you. Thank you for all the work that you are doing. And remember, you're worth the time it takes to tell a landlord to shove it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, Mercury. Folks absolutely lost it when I sent a screenshot of your first DM and I was like, oh my God. And everybody was super excited.
I saw this happening, and the first thing I thought was, I have to reach out. I have to, even if you didn't want to do an interview, I had to tell you that I'm watching and I'm rooting for you. And I hope that this inspires hundreds of other people to do things across this country. Right to repair is a huge thing that is near and dear to my heart. I think it's one of the central political things we should be talking about across this country for affordability. I think it's huge, not only for tenants, but also right to repair for farmers and right to repair for anyone who has electronics, which is everybody. Right to repair for people who have cars, right to repair for everybody. It's a huge topic. So thank you for drawing more attention to it, and take care. Okay. Mwah!